very recent reports have stated that the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria have begun to encroach on U.S. soil. According to news editor Holly Yan of CNN.com, 2 ISIS affiliates were killed in Garland, Texas, just outside of Dallas, at an anti-Muslim art museum on May the 3rd of this year. Now it seems a little bit more real, doesn't it? ISIS is knocking on the back door of the United States, whether we like it or not. And with this speech, I'd like to explain to each of you how ISIS was formed and their volatile upbringing. My second point is how their leadership has begun to grow numbers, and also how they've been pushing into Iraq. My third point is how they've actually moved into Iraq, and my final point will be to talk about what the United States is to do about this issue. Going back to my first point about the volatile upbringing of the leadership of ISIS. According to Robert Rabel of thenationalinterest.com, he writes a report in 2014 explaining the complex rise of ISIS leadership, starting with al-Zarqawi and his move from al-Qaeda into ISIS, which was not formally known as ISIS at this point, but then moving through U.S. intervention, moving to al-Baghdadi. And what I mean by U.S. intervention is to say that these leadership, the leaders that were in between al-Zarqawi and al-Baghdadi were actually taken out by U.S. Military forces. Reporter Lee Fernan of ABCnews.com also writes about how ISIS was started from a relatively obscure upbringing, and then eventually is now to a point to where it overshadows all other terroristic organizations within the entire world. Along with al-Baghdadi taking control of ISIS, this didn't happen in a very subtle way. Al-Baghdadi was actually denounced. Al-Baghdadi and ISIS were actually denounced by al-Qaeda once their affiliate, and then because of such volatility between that relationship, they cut all ties with them. But this has not stopped the number of people coming into ISIS from growing. ISIS has continued to grow to a point to where it actually is, according to Thomas Jocelyn of the longwarjournal.com, al-Qaeda, an article by Fernan, ISIS has actually grown to over 30,000 people in late 2014. Now this number has actually increased just because of the time between now and 2015, between 2014 and 2015 as of now. So, and then according to Thomas Jocelyn of the longwarjournal.com, he actually talks about the cutting of the ties between al-Qaeda and ISIS when al-Baghdadi was beginning to take control of ISIS. Now this leads me into my third point about how ISIS has been able to grow so much, but they're actually al-Baghdadi is actually taking these ISIS forces and moving them into Iraq. Whenever he began to move them into Iraq, he actually formed an alliance with al-Qaeda's, an affiliate in Syria with al-Qaeda, and he was able to form an alliance there. Thus, he created ISIS, which is the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Because of his presence in Iraq, he has actually begun to kill Christians and kill many people in those areas and just create havoc within the areas. Actually, according to Greg Bethel of CNN.com, he reported in April of 2015, just a few months ago, of the horrors that were beginning to happen in Iraq and in Syria. And specifically in Iraq, there's been beheadings of Christians. There's been such chaos and such havoc within those areas that that there has been just an uprising from the people. We've actually seen some of these videos that have been leaked to news stations in the United States, and it seems that ISIS has a grip over Iraq and over Syria that is becoming very strong, and there are many things that the United States needs to begin to do about that. Which leads me into my fourth point, talking about what the United States needs to do about this issue. Because of our strong presence within the Middle East due to oil and other resources that we continue to import and export with those countries back and forth, there is a serious problem that the United States needs to deal with. One of these issues is the fact that ISIS is no longer just wanting to target these areas. They are actually beginning to move their targets into other areas, such as the United States, as we can see in my example talking about the two ISIS affiliates attacking the anti-art museum in Garland, Texas, not just 3 hours away from where we are. And I believe that the United States has a duty to its people, to protect its people, and to actually begin to deal with this issue, because it's not going to just go away on its own. I believe that ISIS has reasonable cause to come to the United States, and in the future we could be seeing more of a presence from them if nothing is done. And with that, I conclude. Thank you.